Okay, so if you're a leader, it feels like AI is everywhere, right? It's talked about as this magic key for unlocking growth, but let's be honest, it's also surrounded by a ton of hype. So how do you figure out what's real and what's just noise? Well, in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that and give you the clear strategic framework you need to make smart calls on AI. This quote really hits home, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling in the air right now. There's this incredible pressure to get on board with AI, but at the same time, the opportunity is just massive. We're not just talking about some new tech fad. This is a genuine shift in how business gets done. And you, as a leader, you're right there on the front lines. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. How do you actually separate the sci-fi dreams of thinking robots from the very real business targets you have to hit this quarter? How do you make smart bets when the landscape is so confusing? That is exactly the question we are here to tackle. So, first up, let's talk about the AI mandate. I mean, the pressure to adopt AI is intense. It seems like everyone is doing something, but what's really going on behind the curtain? The answer might actually surprise you. And here it is, the reality check. For all the chatter, for all the headlines, only 13% of companies have actually managed to scale AI across their entire business. What this number tells us is that going from a cool little pilot project to making AI a core part of how you operate, well, that's a whole different ballgame. Okay, this next part is maybe the single most important concept in this whole conversation. It's the difference between two very distinct kinds of AI. And once you get this, the rest of the AI landscape starts to make a whole lot more sense. All right, so on one hand, you have what's called artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. This is the AI that we have today. It's all around us, and it can be incredibly powerful, but, and this is the key, only for one specific task. Then, on the other hand, you have artificial general intelligence, or AGI. This is the stuff of movies, the thinking, reasoning machines that can do anything a human can. The most crucial thing to remember is that AGI is still science fiction. It doesn't exist. So much of the hype and the fear around AI comes from mixing these two things up. In fact, you're using narrow AI all day, every day. When you ask your smart speaker for the weather, when you use a search engine, or even when you rely on the lane assist feature in your car, you're interacting with ANI. These are tools that are absolute masters of a single job, and that's what makes them so incredibly valuable. They are not about to take over the world. So if today's AI is all narrow, then what's actually powering it? What's the engine driving this whole revolution? Let's pop the hood and take a quick look at the tech that makes it all work. The engine of modern AI runs on one single fuel: data. It's a really simple relationship. The more quality data you can feed an AI system, the better it performs. This is why having a solid data strategy isn't just some IT problem anymore. It's the absolute foundation of your entire AI plan. Better data simply means better AI. Now, the technology that turns all that data into actual results is machine learning. And don't let the technical name throw you. At its core, it's just about teaching a computer to recognize patterns. Think of it like this. It's all about mapping an input, let's call it A, to an output, we'll call that B. For example, if you show it millions of photos of cats, that's input A, it learns to correctly identify a cat, that's output B. That simple A to B logic is the principle behind so much of the AI we use today. All right, so we've talked about what AI is, but it's just as important to be crystal clear on what it isn't. Understanding the practical limits of today's AI is absolutely crucial for setting realistic goals and, frankly, for avoiding really expensive mistakes. So here's a fantastic rule of thumb you can start using immediately with your team. If you're looking at a task and wondering if AI can handle it, just ask this one question. Could a human do this in just a few seconds of thought? If the answer is yes, then it's probably a great candidate for AI automation. It's not a perfect rule, but it's an amazing starting point. And you can see the difference so clearly here. Using AI to spot a tiny flaw on a phone coming off a production line, that's a quick visual task, that few seconds of thought kind of thing. It's a perfect fit. But asking AI to write a 50-page deep dive market analysis, no way. That requires strategic thinking, complex reasoning, and nuance that is still very much in the human domain. Okay, enough about the tech. Let's talk strategy. Now that we have a real handle on the technology, what's your next move as a leader? Let's build a playbook to guide your approach. So check this out. when you look at AI readiness, you find this really fascinating gap. A huge 74% of CEOs say they feel like their teams are appropriately skilled for generative AI. That sounds pretty good, right? Pretty confident. But here's the twist. When you ask their own C-suite colleagues the same question, that number just plummets down to 29%. I mean, that is a massive perception gap. It points to a serious blind spot for leadership that could really slow down progress. So how do you build a playbook that it actually works? It really comes down to 3 key actions. First, make people, not technology, the center of your strategy. AI is a tool to make your team better. Second, you have to be laser-focused. Don't chase 100 different ideas. Find the 3 to 5 biggest business problems you have and start right there. And finally, be ready to change how you work, to rethink your operating model to really empower your people and unlock their creativity. Bernie Hickman, who's the CEO of Legal & General Retail, just puts it perfectly. He says the question isn't, how can we use AI? The right question is, what are our biggest problems that we need the most help with? And that little shift in mindset from technology first to problem first is everything. So as we start to wrap up, it becomes really clear that the most important part of this whole AI revolution isn't the machines, it's the leadership. In an age of intelligent technology, the role of a leader becomes more human, not less. And this stat just drives that point home. An overwhelming 80% of executives agree that when it comes to the hard stuff like AI ethics, the buck stops with business leaders, not with the tech leaders. This means that strategic oversight and ethical responsibility, that's a core executive job now. It's something you simply can't delegate. At the end of the day, it all boils down to this one fundamental truth. You can automate tasks, you can supercharge workflows, but you cannot automate vision. You can't automate strategy, and you definitely can't automate inspiration. That will always be the work of human leadership. So, we want to leave you with this one final thought. AI is going to reshape your business. That's a given. The real question, the more important question, is how will you reshape your leadership to rise to this moment?